Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Drew Gardner with the two Mississippi Museums, and we are glad to have you with us this week at History is Lunch. We're in our home here, the Craig H. Neilsen Auditorium in the Museum of Mississippi History and the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. We're also streaming both live on Facebook and YouTube, where you can see any of our previous programs at any time. We hope that you will join us not this Tuesday, but this coming Tuesday, October 28th at 11 a.m. here at the two Mississippi Museums to embark on a behind-the-scenes tour of the MDAH Historic Objects Collection. This is our final of four historic object collections that we've had this year. We'll start them back again in January of 26. But this is our last one. There's still a space available, and so we'd love to have you come join us. This is going to be led by our MDH Director of Collections, Nan Prince, and Hong Lee, the MDH Collections Manager. Attendees will meet in the lobby at the two Mississippi Museums, and again, space is limited, and so if you'd like to register, you can go to the MDH events page, and that link will take you there to register and come join. So again, there's still spaces available, so we'd love to have you join us again next Tuesday, October 28th. But today, we're excited to welcome two friends of the Mississippi Department of Archives and History and welcome Eddie Johnson and Jay Wesley and their presentation of Life and Traditions of the Mississippi Choctaw. Eddie Johnson is a tribal member of the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians and has served as the Special Projects and Media Coordinator for the Department of Choctaw-Imi and is now the Tribal Archivist. Jay Wesley is a member of the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians as well, and he is the Director for the Department of Choctaw-Imi, which consists of the Choctaw Tribal Languages Program, the Cultural Affairs Program, the Special Projects and Media Program, and the Choctaw-Imi Cultural Center. So please help me welcome our friends Jay Wesley and Eddie Johnson.
Halito, so ho chifo yet Jay Wesley, tiakakia immediately, it's Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians about chifale. Yagni hashbinili pa, uglimaya pat, chata elap ato, popagi uchasho. It's Anchuka chafaro, Satikshi Danielle, Siushi Tekathia to KK, Tina, Momo, Jumber, Chatosti. Alito and good morning. Let me go ahead and translate that for you. Okay, I'm from the Standard Pine community, and I'm with the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians. And my family, with my culture, is we are extension of our family, and like today we're extension of our family, our community, and our tribe. So normally we come from a matrilineal society. That's where my ancestors' way of living was. So that's how we introduce ourselves, and I introduce my wife and my daughters, and with their nicknames, of course. And also, I did say that the land that we are on right now, if there was ownership, then it used to be our land. Or around Mississippi, Ogleshe-Ela, which is other native tribes. However, the Treaty of Dokestan at 1820 gave this land to the United States. And before Jackson became the capital of Mississippi, it was out there in Natchez, right? So now, after that, for us, we lost 5 million acres of land And Mississippi, the state itself, started expanding with these lands given to the state itself. And Jackson, and before it was Jackson, it was called LeFleur's Bluff trading post. And a guy, French tradesman, he was the father of Greenwood LeFleur, which was one of our chiefs that signed the last treaty that gave up the last of our lands. So history is lunch, and history is all around us in Mississippi, especially Choctaw history. The names, Jackson, named after Andrew Jackson. What county are we in? Hinds County, which is one of the signatories of that treaty of the Oak Stand, was Thomas Hinds. So I try to share our language and our imprints from our ancestors every chance I get, because it's all around us. Going from one side of the state to the other in different presentations. So the reason I bring this up is Choctaw Traditions, the book itself, we have to understand who the Choctaws were and still is, and what are there in our traditions. So I have Mr. Eddie Johnson here, and Mr. Tom Mold. Dr. Tom Mold is not here with us today, but there was three of us. It's on the front cover of that book. But the stories are from a lot of storytellers, and we'll get into that in a bit. But to understand what this book is all about, we have to understand our past, our history. The mound that we honor, as pictured at the front cover, is called Naniwaya, our mother mound. We have, I'll get into the legends there, but also the people right now, the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians are the only federally recognized tribe in the state of Mississippi. And the storytellers are our elders who passed on stories from one generation to another. And the book is this collection of these stories. And let's go back to Naniwaya. History of the mounds in Mississippi. There's a lot of mounds in Mississippi. You can have a trail off the Natchez Trace and kind of take a look at those scenic byways and see some mounds all around Mississippi. And some of those have different purposes, be it burial mounds, might have been a chief's house on top of that, or the council house. So a lot of times, if it's small mounds, it's most likely they are burial mounds. And Naniwaya is the heart of the Choctaw people. We have two major legends. Since we have a lot of storytellers, we have a lot of legends and myths. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the emergence, where our people emerge from the below world into this world through Naniwaya. And the other one is the migration, where we came from somewhere out southwest and migrated over here and ended up looking at this leaning mound and called it home. And that's why we call it the heart of the Choctaw people. And we do have an annual celebration, because we lost that mound with our last treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek. And once it was returned in 2008, then we celebrate, we have a celebration now. Every August, we celebrate taking back our mother mound. Now, the people, we have the historical account of indigenous people in Mississippi. So the Choctaws, we weren't the only ones here in Mississippi a long time ago. We had the Chickasaws, we had the Natchez, we had the Yazoo, we had the Biloxi, we had the Pascagoula. All these names sound familiar? Yeah, they're called cities, and sometimes you'll see community colleges named after certain significant people or events. Last week I was in Clarksdale, and then they had a Coahoma Community College. I asked them, do y'all know what that means? said, Red Panther. I said, yes, you're right. It's Koihuma. And then there's colleges where they play ball against each other, like Kopaya. Lincoln was that Koipaya, which is the yell of the panther. Buktana, Shak Buktana, they have wildcats. You check out the mascots. They allude to the history of the native peoples around Mississippi and names around Mississippi. You'll just drive around and you'll take a look right now. Even here in Jackson, events of the LaFleur's Bluff, there's a shopping plaza called LaFleur's Bluff still, or the state park. And then you have historical figures that are all around Mississippi. So just drive around and now understand that some of these words are in the language of Native people that used to be here. A big thing that you'll see is if you see like Hatchie behind a word, is Tallahatchie or Pelahatchie, or Hatchie or Hacha is a name for river. So there's a name there and it's river. Okay. And who are the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians? Like I said, we're the only federally recognized tribe in the Mississippi. We have a tribal chief, Cyrus Ben, and a 17-member tribal council. We have 11,000 plus members, and through 9 treaties, we have lost 25 million acres to what we have today is 35,000 acres. That's a lot of land. And the 2 major legends that I talked about is the emergence and the migration. And currently we have 9 communities spread out, around Mississippi, and 1 in Henning, Tennessee. Now, as far as the storytellers, we have a lot of people that enjoy talking about the rules for living or just having fun through different characters, be it animals or family members. So this is where this collection is coming from. And the storytellers a lot of times were tribal elders and the Moshi. The Moshi is your mother's brother, okay? People say uncle, but not really, because your mother's brother is a Moshi and your father's brother is Anki Achafwa. So, and they had different responsibilities. And like our tribal elders, they passed on what they have learned, what they were told to pass on to the next generation, and the Moshi was in charge of your children's education through storytelling. And there was different purposes of these stories. Like I said, it could be rules for living or explaining events all around us, the world around us, how animals came to be, how animals have different characteristics. And I think when we had that solar eclipse early in the year, we have one story that I can share. It's kind of fun because once the solar eclipse is happening and it's covering up that sun and it's getting dark, our elders used to tell the kids, hey, that's a big black squirrel eating the sun. So you guys need to go out there and yell and throw rocks and do everything you can to shoo that squirrel away. So all the kids will go out there, they'd be yelling, screaming, throwing rock sticks up in the air, trying to hit that squirrel they're imagining in their minds. And once the, eclipse passes, then they did their job. They're all happy. Hey, we did it. Check that out. The squirrel ran away. So, it's just, sometimes it's just for fun. And then we'll have Mr. Johnson share a story in a bit about one of the stories from the book and some of the things that, people talk about. And Shukanopa is, Choctaw word for hog talk, having fun, just like I shared. So there's plenty of stories, and the storytellers themselves are not with us today. A lot of them have passed on with this knowledge and having this book and collection and putting it out there. as not just for the public, it's actually for us, for our kids, to pass on this knowledge, to pass on the art of the storytelling, the stories themselves. So, COVID hit everybody really hard. And for our elders, because of the elder population, they took a lot of our storytellers that we did not record their stories, their legacies, what they have learned. So we can collect that and pass on to our children and the next generation. So when Dr. Tom Mold came and said, hey, let's collect some more stories and possibly do another book. And then we're like, great. It's always great for people to collect these stories and put them together, because for me, I utilize this during these presentations or, in our education system, or just kind of having a storytelling by the bonfire. Let's say we got one coming up Friday, just telling these stories and trying to get that interest into the next generation so they can become the next storyteller. I think this is where Eddie takes over on the book.
Little, hope my voice holds up, but so my voice on the microphone is not good. But glad to be here today with you and share some of these some things about the book. This podium is not going to be big enough for me. I need one that's about that wide. I want to say a few things, how things got kind of started, and kind of give you a little background how the book came to be. Back in 1997, I believe, Tom Moe visited the Choctaw Indian Reservation, doing some research for his, I'm not sure exactly what he was doing there, but he was doing some research, and then it resulted in a book called Choctaw Tales. And that was a collection of more on the storytelling as legends and stories of the Choctaw people, and it's more along the line oral traditions, oral history recording, and that was somewhat his, I guess that was his beginning, and that book was utilized by our tribe and try to help preserve stories. And he came back around from early 2000s to, I believe, around 2019 or so. I'm kind of guessing. My memory's not always that good, so I'm sitting there thinking about what I needed to say, and I remembered that he contacted us, our department, the Department of Choctaw Amy, and he took us out to lunch and sat down, discussed what he wanted to do, what he had in mind, and it was supposed to be just one book. Well, actually, this is an offshoot. Choctaw Traditions is an offshoot of another from that second effort. He was going to do Choctaw Tales 2, which came out at the same time, and I think presentation's already been done by it. And it led to this other book, more on traditional stories, oral histories, past and present, as Jay explained. And the book is really celebrating storytelling and storytellers, and more so on Choctaw traditions and the customs of the Mississippi Choctaws. And it is a collection of past and present stories that the department, along with a group called the YOP, or Youth Opportunity Program, and you see the list on the slide, some names: Michaela Alex, Lexi Flitt, Kylie Martin, Thomas Saunders, Jaden Wesley, Mika Willis, and Taylor Ben, who was a college student. Most of them you see here on the list were either just recently graduated in 2020 or were still in high school. But these were young people that were involved, that got recruited to be part of an intern, I believe, summer intern event in 2020 when Tom Moe came by and started his work. And originally, that's how he started with the first book, and this led to the second part, doing the same, using the same methods, and contacting our department to partner up in that. And this is where I came into play. Jay had a big role in it as far as leading the department and facilitating things that we needed. And we had a role as supporting Tom and providing information on who to contact, because he had been there in 1997, and I believe he may have come down in between 1997 and 2019, but things had changed. He said, "Oh my," he was shocked to see how things had changed, and COVID was another issue we had to deal with. But this group worked hard interviewing community people, and I had a staff that worked with Tom, providing necessary media equipment and also assisting him in whatever he needed with research and other material, along with the tribal archives. And we just briefly say that it was an effort by the department and reaching out to the community, the community elders, as well as other tribal members that wanted to make sure our stories are preserved. And that was the main thing. And also told. You preserve something, you put it aside, but you intend to use it, right? I always think about preserving food, or jelly or something on the jar, in a jar sitting up in the cabinet, but I keep looking at it and say, hey, we need to eat that. And you open it up and eat it, it's good. But that's kind of the background of the book. Let's see. I'm always afraid to use these because I end up pressing the button while I'm talking and flip through the slides, not knowing where it went. So we'll do this right. Where am I supposed to point here? Can I just use the arrows? Okay. Is that the correct one? Briefly, let me just share with you the life and customs of the, let's see. Wait a minute, did I back up here? Did you cover the slide? Please, I'm sorry, I'm a mess here. Let's see. Yeah, I got it. It's correct. I'm sorry. And here we go again. Just only 2 slides. I'm fumbling here. Briefly, let me just cover some things about the stories. And as mentioned, life and customs of the Mississippi Choctaws as center is the main thing. There's about 1,400 stories that have been recorded and gathered and analyzed, put together by Tom and those who were working together. A lot of people did the field work, and interviews were conducted, and that's what we worked with. And unfortunately, we couldn't give you all 1,400. We were able to give you a small percentage of that. And when you get a chance to get the book and read it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But there's more stories. And right before we started earlier, I was telling Jay, I said, one of the elders spoke to me not too long ago. And he mentioned that there's other stories we need to tell. So you need to do another book. So there was that eagerness to tell. And Choctaws like to tell stories, as Jay had mentioned, as part of our tradition. And the book is one way to put it out. And this book gave opportunities for these elders to share these stories, and organized by the lead of Tom Moe. The book is actually organized in 6 sections. And when you take a look, it covers the land, which deals with anything from farming to gardening to hunting to fishing. There'll be things that people experience, first-hand experience, as well as second-hand stories from other experiences passed down in a family or shared by the individual themselves. The other part that it covers is recreation, stickball, blowgun, games and other types of games that people played in the past. And also there's community events which involved a traditional, one event that really was emphasized was something called Iikua, which is broken foot. And what that is really a community involvement in helping support those who are for some reason or other have some serious accident or something that has happened, and there's support from the community offered. And that was done in the past, and it's at times it's still carried on in different forms. It may not be called Iikua no more, but we saw some of that during COVID rise up, where people said there's grassroots efforts. There was no public support or anything like that. They said, hey, let's help each other. We're people. We're one community. Let's support each other. And there was some volunteer sacrifices and volunteer work and efforts to help each other through a difficult time. But it also involved marriages. The traditions that are told as marriages. We have Choctaw traditional weddings, and that has its own way of bringing a family together. Really, it used to be a clan, really, more than just a couple getting married and you shoo them off so they can live alone. But there was a support system in the community. It was a big, if you had a big family and they had a big family, it become one big family. So that has interesting information. The book, there's experiences being told and also shared from secondhand information as well. Then there's dealing with death, that deals with the life cycles. Those two birth dates and the Choctaw cry is dealing with death. It's a way of coping with death after one is, they have a loved one passed away. Those traditions are spoken about in the book. And then there's health and healing, and that deals with medicine men, herbal remedies, and other means that were used in the past, and they're told and shared in an interesting manner. Then the last one, the sixth one, is advice from the elders. Without our elders, we wouldn't have traditions. We wouldn't know much about our traditions. They emphasize the Choctaw culture and making sure that things are passed down. And they always stress, you need to learn this, learn how to do this, learn how to make this, share the value that's a part of it, tell the stories to your children. And there's some advice from the elders that are given. And those are practical application as well as principles that they learn themselves from their grandparents or mothers or fathers or whoever shared that with them. So we see that these stories are important. And before I run out of time, it's already 12:30. Get carried away here. But let me, I'll just share one story as a sample of one of the traditions, and some of you are probably familiar with this, as well as I like to say this: we have Choctaw traditions, and some things are probably even shared with other Mississippians as well. The life experiences that I want to refer to is from Bobby Joe. I was thinking last night, whose story can I share? And I reached down, and Bobby kept on coming into my mind. And he's no longer with us. He passed away in January 6th of 2000. Well, earlier. I mean, after that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of messing up here. But he talks about how he was old when he started plowing. Some of you probably know that type of stories from others in the past. Choctaws had to deal with that system of sharecropping, which wasn't a great experience, but you had to learn things and cope with it. But one of the things that he says, I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm just going to paraphrase some things it said. You have to read the book, okay? But he said that he was a young boy when he saw his father plowing in the fields, and he worked hard. His father worked hard. He noticed that, and he desired to help him, but he was too little. I'm not sure exactly what age he was, but his father would take a mule and plow 15 acres of corn and cotton for the person that they were working halves with. But he told his father one day, I want to help you, teach me. And his father said, you're too small, too young. But overnight that changed. His mind changes, and he tells Bobby's eating breakfast, and the mother had cooked, and he's eating breakfast, and his father comes into the kitchen and says, I'm going to go out to the barn and I'm going to get a second meal ready. So I want you to come out there and meet me. So as the story goes, Bobby goes out to the barn when it's time, and he shows up and he said, let's go down to the field. And he takes one of the mules. His father takes one of the mules and starts to begin to plow. And I said, watch me. And he showed him, this is what you do. And he plows a row for about 10 feet or so, and he stops. I'm sorry, 10 feet, he says. And he turns around and said, do you see what I did? And I said, come here. He said, hold the reins this way. And this is what you need to do to hold it right. Don't push too hard. And he explains what to do. So now, take over. And Bobby takes over, and he goes this way and that way. And father gets on him and said, no, you didn't do what I told you to do. He says, plow it straight. You got to do it a certain way to make it plow straight. And then he corrects it, and he says, he corrects him, and he says, I'm going to tell you one time. And that's all I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you again. and that little story has always stuck with me ever since I read it. Heard that particular story just stuck with me because that was some of the phrases that my folks used to tell me. I never plowed a mule before, with a mule before, so I can't go that route. I had some other things I learned from, but there was that phrase, and it's actually a Choctaw phrase. I don't know any other group has it. Maybe there's some that says, I'm going to show you one time, and you better pay attention. So I'm not going to do it again. And that to me was, even though it sounds harsh, later on I figured out as I got older and I got kids on my own, that phrase always stuck with me. It meant pay attention, learn, take it seriously. You're not out here to play. Because it's something that sticks with you, and it's a valuable lesson that I learned from my folks, and that story, I can relate to it. So I wanted to share that little traditional thought there, a story there from Bobby's experience. But that's all I have. I think I'm going to give it back to Jay.
Okay, let me come back to the Youth Opportunity Program. It's a great program that the tribe has for youth during the summertime. They get to intern, and really work with the people, the programs, and try to get a taste of what they want to get into as they go to school, college. So these are high school juniors, seniors, and college kids. And for this book, the time of collecting all these stories was during COVID when everybody stayed home. We had all them safety, sanitation, everything, guidelines, and the Youth Opportunity Program. Most of the kids were doing things online, but we utilized, got permission to really utilize these kids, these 6 kids, to really kind of work with us. And that was great. I mean, some of the names are actually, it was an intergenerational process. Thomas Saunders, grandson of Dilar Saunders, who worked with our language program. Lexi Flint was, I think, at the same time, a granddaughter of the chief at that time, Chief Phyllis Anderson. Michaela Alex was the granddaughter of Lisha Alex, which did a book previously called Choctaw Tales with Dr. Tom Mould, and interviewed their grandfather, which is Bradley Alex. So there's a lot of process, and these kids were learning. And my own daughter, Jaden Wesley, was a part of that. And she interviewed her own grandfather and learned about certain things about, her grandfather, her family, and, she was really enlightened to the fact that, hey, I captured some stories that he's never told us, that he's never shared, or I didn't know this about the family. So a lot of these things were a process for us to learn, to appreciate. And so this book itself is, for some of our families, is an heirloom, family heirloom now, because we have captured the stories of people that are not with us today. And as far as, the stories, and we're still writing this. We're still writing our story. We're still working with a lot of programs, people, to tell the stories from our past, our history, the history of Mississippi, history of Native peoples in Mississippi, or just Mississippi stories, like Mississippi Humanities Council has been partnering with us with, bringing that stories out at different spaces, and also Mississippi College, Ashley, met with Ashley earlier, is working with us on the language side, trying to figure out how we can sustain our language. And, see Bill in here, and he's been a big part of, our historical and language work and culture work, and I still work with Bill here and there. So he shoots me emails and says, hey, check this out, and then it's always pretty good. So, so we're still working with people, including 2 museums. We have a program coming up later on this month, next month, November, where we'll have a presentation and some demonstrations, and, a lot of these stories that you're going to read about is going to be played out in front of you. And a lot of times, it's not just one story in a vacuum. It actually alludes to our past, our traditions, our people, our customs. So, kind of like what Mr. Johnson said, it was like our wakes, funerary rituals. We have a fire, the sacred fire that sustained, protected our people in our ancestry, which is embodiment of the life-giving property of the sun. Every home had a sacred fire in their homes that never went out until once a year they had a ceremony called Luwak Moshuli ceremony. And it happened around end of August. And we had a different calendar at that time too. We followed the lunar cycle, so we had 13 months. So the celebration part of these stories is, we've lost our land. We've lost a lot of people. So we're holding on to these stories. We've lost a lot of traditions, customs. 13 months down to 12 to follow, the solar cycle. And they took out one of the, the most important month, which was where this ceremony was at, erasing the history of our people. And that's something that we are always trying to collect information, always trying to put it out there through our education system, and also saying, hey, these stories are still out there. There's a lot of stories that haven't been told. So, this book itself collected all these stories for that and for our future generations. And hopefully we'll have more books that come out celebrating these people. So to really understand the stories that you guys are going to read, some of the examples also from the story itself is, you said medicine. Okay. We had a medicine man on staff at our Choctaw Health Center a few years ago. Okay. So you could either go, I guess, called the Western medicine, today's medicine, or you can go see this Choctaw Lichi, which is our Choctaw medicine man. And the reason for that is our elders, some of them still, is honored and believed in a lot of the things that medicine men, provided. And we still have medicine men. And if you kind of go back and down that, I guess, the rabbit hole, how did this person become a medicine man? It goes to stories of a little people of the forest called Bukpuli, and being chosen to go through a trial. And, you go through and make certain choices, and one choice kind of says, you have the capacity to become a medicine man or a woman. So at that point, they're either going to take the mantle and, provide and learn and be assisted by those little people. So we're in October, getting close to Halloween, so I'm trying to put that supernatural feel to this discussion. So yeah, supernatural, we have stories about that, because our ancestors were highly spiritual people, being attuned to the spiritual realm. So kind of seeing things and understanding things. So some of the stories are in here. Some of the stories are in another book that was presented here before called Choctaw Tales. So it's always good to kind of get these collections, and also actually come over to Choctaw, Mississippi. Come over to the Choctaw Imi Cultural Center. Learn more where these stories are kind of played out, displayed, and visible, or participate at the Choctaw Indian Fair. I know we just had the state fair, but our culture is showcased. And these stories that you're going to read about, you're going to have a better understanding when you are participating. You are there at the stickball games, at the social dancing, at the warrior village, trying your hand at, taking down rabbits with a rabbit stick or something. So, yeah, I'm inviting you guys to come over. It's the second week of July. So, the stories that you'll be reading will be played out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have plenty of time for questions, but let's give Jay and Eddie a round of applause first. As we hop into questions and you're thinking of them, I do want to mention the event that Jay was mentioning is our Native American Heritage Day. We'll have several hundred students that'll be here on our campus for those demonstrations. But we're also incredibly thankful for the role that Chief Cyrus Ben has played as a member of the board of the Mississippi Department of Archives and History as well. So again, raise your hand and I'll bring that microphone for questions.
Hi, very interesting. I'm wondering, since you specified Mississippi Choctaw, are there other Choctaw nations around the country in other states?
Yes. After the Treaty of Danton Rabbit Creek in 1830s, we lost the last of our lands, and part of that agreement was to remove the Choctaws to a place called Oklahoma, which is a Choctaw word, actually name. It's Okla, the people, Homa. So, Homa, the red people. That's what Oklahoma's, that's what it's named after. And during the removal process, majority did leave because they got removed. And since then, we've had bands that were kind of spread out. So currently in Oklahoma, you have the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And Louisiana has the Gina Band of Choctaw Indians. Here's the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians. And a subset of, Choctaw communities. There's one in California, in I think it's Bakersfield. It's called the Oklahoma Choctaw Clan. So, and there we have pockets of communities here and there, but these are the ones that are known as, collective groups.
Thank you, Jay and Eddie. I would love for you to talk about the language project and how the tribe and the department is working to kind of preserve and pass down the Choctaw language. What are some of the initiatives that y'all have?
Okay, I got that straight. Yes, we just launched our online dictionary recently, which is the first dictionary for the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians. And this is a great point of reference for us to springboard off of that with different initiatives. So we're adding more language into our school system called Choctaw Tribal Schools, putting it out there for people to kind of check on, what I just kind of talked about you driving around Mississippi and looking at all these weird names about this. This is Choctaw, then you can look it up at our online dictionary and take a look at it. So our language is something that we are working on. Our language is, probably a certain percentage are fully fluent, but our younger generation is needing more help. So with this dictionary that we have put out there, we've got our schools and especially social media kind of utilizing short videos to kind of have fun with that. And that's something that we love doing, and assisted by, on our project with Mississippi College and understanding what other opportunities are there for language revitalization. So that's, we're working at it. We're working at it. And it's a great point of reference for all of us as a Mississippi band. And it's a work has been since I guess forever now, because our language used to be just oral. Transference of language was just oral, not written down. So the dictionaries we had utilized before were the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, which has a different dialect. I mean, it's the same language, but it's for us, we consider that an older dialect because for us, we didn't stop speaking. Our language has changed over the years, but we do understand, and we do highlight certain things about our, church. Some of the Choctaw Bibles or hymnals are in that language. But now that we have this new dictionary, our very first Mississippi Band Choctaw Indians dictionary, now we are kind of rewriting a lot of those into, where people can really take a look at it and read it, understand it.
Jay, we had a question online from our live stream that asked, can you talk a little bit about the significance of the kind of diamond pattern on your shirt and kind of Choctaw history and heritage? Okay.
The diamond pattern is patterned after the diamondback rattlesnake, and it's honoring the rattlesnake to help, as Eddie was talking about, cultivating the land for gardening and agriculture. So we honor that rattlesnake that kind of kept the pests away from that and kept our plants thriving. And we do have a dance that's associated with that. If you guys come back again, when we have this festivities here at 2 museums, then most likely you'll see the snake dance. And also we do have, we're working with the Smithsonian about putting an exhibit at Museum of Natural History, and they're going to have, pictures and an actual diamondback rattlesnake in a big clear jar, and it's a real rattlesnake in there. So we're still working at it to see how it's going to look like. But if you guys get a chance to go to D.C. and check out the Smithsonian, try out the Natural History Museum. And we're working on that. So that expands. So that's the diamond patterns you'll see in our regalia or in our dresses, and Well, like I said, come on back next month, and you'll see all this in the different. The females' dress and beadwork is all, really vibrant and colorful.
Thank you. Thank you for that very informative and interesting celebration of your culture. My question is more based on a historical point of view, and you touched on it briefly, the first question. I'm just wondering, let's say that in 1812 to 1815 you have the young colonies, the War of 1812-1815 between the young colonies and Great Britain. Jackson gets help from the Choctaws in that war, 1812-1815 against Britain. The Choctaws assisted the colonies in defeating the British. And then later on, Mississippi becomes part of the rest of the colonies in 1817. Then later on, all that going on, you have the Choctaws getting more and more acquainted with the newcomers, who are the Europeans who come to settle in Britain, in Mississippi. And you have the Choctaws assisting them. The Choctaws are beginning to adjust to the culture, the language, Christianity, the food and clothing. The Choctaws are beginning to adapt those new cultural conditions. And then suddenly, 1830s, you have the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit, which forces them to be evicted from their land. The Choctaws are forced to go on what is known as the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma. I'm just wondering why. Why were they forced to leave their ancestral land by strangers who were coming to live there? Europeans. Yeah. Am I clear? But this is it's a historical question, so if you don't want to answer it, I can understand.
That's a real big question. There's a lot of factors that come into play. As far as my thought on this is that they were considered allies as far as when it first started with the French coming into our territory, our ancestral territory, and established trade and so forth. Yes, it did impact culture, and then as you go along in history, the British were not our allies. We had some factions within Choctaw Nation in Mississippi at that time during the 1700s. This is about the mid-1700s. Both the British and the French sides had some I believe the majority Choctaws were on the side of the French because of their policies. There was some policy differences, which is a little, you'd have to go deep into that. I'm trying to state this in a way that it's not so, more summarize it, but then you had the British. There was a small group that did side with the British within the nation and caused a civil war. There was a civil war among the Choctaws and eventually stopped. But the French side won out because of the policies that they had. They were not as aggressive as the British. British at the beginning were sided, had the Chickasaws on their side, and Chickasaws, and we're pretty much close in our culture and also language, pretty close kin to the Chickasaws, but there was also bad blood there too. So, whose side did they pick? And they sided with the French at first, but the French lost out. So you had to realign your alliances, go with the British or the U.S. The U.S. The Choctaws were not really involved with the Revolutionary War too much. There were some things that they did, but not. I don't think they did a whole lot. But when the U.S. won the Revolutionary War, they quickly signed a treaty with the Choctaw, Cherokee, and who else was it? Chickasaw, right? I think I want to say Creek also, but I can't remember the details there. They quickly signed the Treaty of Hopewell in the late 1700s. And, this is still frontier, near the Mississippi River area and all that. But as time goes on, you see, beginning 1801, 1802, 1803, you start seeing treaties. U.S. started trying to establish their border security on the coastal area, and there's some of the treaties that were established that took parts of the land there. So far, it's okay. We're allies. If they want to use that as a military post and trading goods, is fine. But turn of events, and like you said, allying with War of 1812, the Creek Wars, Choctaw sided with their ally, kept their end of the bargain. But Jackson, when he becomes president, about 1820 on forward is where we start seeing encroachment even more going forward. So there's a lot of factors, but those are the few things that I know that influenced them to side with the U.S. until the U.S. turned on the Choctaw. That's my explanation.
And to expand on that, the treaty process is normally an agreement between two nations compromising, right? Yeah, we didn't compromise. We were kind of threatened. And superior numbers, superior might, weaponry. And as Eddie explained, and you yourself kind of went through our history lesson here, the U.S., they were getting stronger and mightier. And for us, when we give our word that we are allies, that I will not go against you, we kept our word. That's the big difference. Is, like I said, it's our language was oral; it wasn't written down. So when we gave them a word that we will not kind of work against you, because we are, working together, then we honored that. And the process itself, the treaty process, we did not understand what it was. Same thing as if I'm here and I bring a contract in my language. It's a mod yagani it's a nasha chimashiga chimayo talig mano is chuchifushtaga anowaje. So that's the kind of contract we had. What did I say? But I'm telling you, oh yeah, if you sign here, yeah, you're gonna have all this. But on paper, it was different. Okay, we didn't have lawyers going through these contracts or treaties. We didn't have. It was a different. Like I said, it was matrilineal society on our side. Assets, property belonged to the female line. So even after Treaty of Johnson and Jay Creek, where they had to go through this process so many times that at one point the U.S. government said, hey, or military said, okay, either sign it or else. So where are the other tribes that used to be here? They were annihilated. They were decimated. They've been removed. So the last part of that process is with Greenwood LaFleur was like, okay, at least let's kind of put in something that's going to help us, if it's being removed or, giving up our status as a nation and joining the state of Mississippi and taking a little bit of land back, part of that treaty process, which they got all swindled out anyways afterwards, where we had a agent, William Ward, had to get people to sign up. And that's a big miscommunication because we're from a matrilineal society where the female were supposed to come up and sign for the assets, which is property, land, right? And the agent is like, no, women had no rights. Not in our society at that time, right? So why are you trying to sign? And pushed a lot of our people away. And on our side, man was like, hey, I thought y'all wanted to go sign. And I was like, no, you got to go sign. I was like, why? We don't sign for that stuff. That's actually belongs to the female. So there's a lot of miscommunication as far as understanding one another, or a lot of threatening mannerisms or deals that went to all our treaty process. Oh, yeah, the land in Arkansas, you're gonna have all this lush green land, and you're gonna have all this agricultural rich soil that you guys can grow your own vegetables, and no one's gonna bother you. But wait, there's actually settlers over there, so let's take it back. So, there's a lot of miscommunication and not understanding, and like I said, when I was speaking in my language, you guys didn't know what I said. What I said was like, hey, you guys, if I line you up, you come on over and sign your house, your car, your land to me. But when I said it in English, I said, oh yeah, you guys gonna get double the land and double the cars and double your whatever. So, see, that's the kind of process that we were dealing with. And that's where, yeah, we did not allow, but we were made to accept these terms.
Hello. Certainly the stories and the oral histories that you're gathering are the meat of people's lives, but family history researchers like myself try to find out the links as far back as possible and so on, and many of them are mixed with Black, Native American, white, so on. I heard one of you is the archivist for the Mississippi Band, and so I'm wondering what resources you have for researching far back, and are you trying to gather those kinds of resources in Mississippi?
The resources that we have, 1830, after the treaty and the removal of those that stayed behind, I believe it's the Cooper Rolls, if I'm not mistaken. I have to think here. And then there's the room, I believe, census, which really you don't have the trouble with that because the Cooper Roll originally, most of those are written Choctaw names, and you can find them. They were the census within the pockets of areas where Choctaws are found, but not everybody got on there. Some say we don't trust nobody in this situation, but those that were, were counted were like East Central Mississippi area, most of the area that was covered. I can't remember exactly what number, but you can look online, reference that, and you'll find that's available. And then there was a room commission that was set up, and those were like late 1840s, 50, I think. That dealt with appeals for treaty allotment lands in the state of Mississippi for those who stay behind to make an appeal. That's available. I usually tell them that requires some digging there because name changes occur from Choctaw names to you start seeing more English names involved with those census. And there's a lot that you have to dig into concerning history on that part. There's certain changes in the names, and not only that, and location also. Some of them actually moved to Oklahoma. So censuses and also historical information that deals with that. I usually encourage people to look at those. But going forward further, you have the Dawes Commission, which those material you probably could find in the National Archives, I think, in Smithsonian Institute. There's other places, but I can't remember all the places that you can look for. But those usually have, the Dawes Commission deals with Choctaw Nation as well. And there's the one, the Mississippi census rolls and so forth. And those censuses involve some who stayed behind, because removal didn't just occur one time. And a lot of people think it's like 1830 they all moved to Oklahoma. Some of them stayed behind. No, there's also this number. Some said they went to Oklahoma, came back. There's and tracing your lineage can make you go to Oklahoma and come back. And then there's also those who registered to get allotment lands were rejected during the Dawes Commission. So you have rejected applications, and then you have accepted applications. Those are factors that we deal with, and our resources are somewhat limited. But at the turn of the century, going into the 20th century, the Dawes Commission, I think, ended 1906. I may be wrong on that. But if you look at the Dawes Commission, the censuses that have been taken, they come with what's called a jacket. The first one in 1889, that didn't quite work out. They just had index cards. A card, they call it. And that didn't work out, so they started over, and they interviewed people. And there's transcripts of that. And they tell on those names that are of who their ancestors were, what kind of living conditions they were. And that was an intent to remove them from Mississippi to Oklahoma. And many didn't leave. 1903 was the last removal effort by the U.S. government. And there you discover that about 2,000, I think around 2,000 actually were removed to, Ardmore, Oklahoma. And there's some information out there on that too. So trying to do more research on those things. But there's other references that we also share with others.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's give Eddie Johnson and Jay Wesley another round of applause. I know we weren't able to get to everybody's questions, so if you'd like to ask a question, Jay and Eddie are going to be available for book signing. Their book, Choctaw Traditions, Stories of Life and Customs of the Mississippi Choctaw, is available for purchase. We also have a few copies of the book that was mentioned several times that was also written with Tom Mould, Choctaw Tales, Stories from the Firekeepers, that we still have available as well. You can find those just to the left of the stage. And so we hope you'll come back and join us again next week. We'll have Nancy Carpenter here to talk about Mississippi's America 250 celebration, as well as a preview of the new Ken Burns documentary on the American Revolution. So thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate it. One more round of applause for Jay Wesley and Eddie Johnson.